Hello, everyone. So welcome to the second in our Get Control of Your Life series. Today's program is called Decluttering Your Life, and we have a lovely expert for you today, and I hope that you'll enjoy this program thoroughly. But since we have a little bit of time, I'm going to have each of the sponsors introduce themselves. So Dean Brown, why don't you put yourself off mute and tell us all about your fabulous self?
Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, my name is Dean Brown. I'm the Director of Business Development for the Bristol Assisted Living. We have 4 locations we actually have 5 locations in New Jersey. I always say the 3 W's. You have Waldwick, Wayne, and Woodcliff Lake. And then the 4th one is Inglewood, and the 5th one is Somerset. And we have assisted living plus memory care. And if anyone would like to come visit and get a tour, please reach out to Laura. She has all our email information. And thank you very much for attending today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dean. So Jason Marks, do you want to introduce yourself?
I guess I can do that. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jason Marks. I'm a partner and chairman of the Elder Care and Special Needs Planning Practice Group at Curcio Mirzayan Surat. I am a 23-year practicing attorney in this area, and just recently joined some law school friends of mine as the head of this new practice group, as well as the head of their new tax and estate planning practice group. So look forward to talking to anybody who has some questions, concerns about elder care, life care planning, long-term care financing, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you, Jason. Jason was our first expert. We did a program together in the Get Control of Your Life series. We did it in April, and he helped us protect your life. So we might do that program again for you all because we had some requests to do it again. So Heidi Gross, put yourself off mute and tell us about your lovely, lovely self.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heidi Gross, and I'm the publisher of Autumn Years magazine. We are a quarterly publication. We mail free of charge to residents in Bergen County and actually anywhere. I say anywhere because people find our magazine in different locations and have friends of friends who are featured. Since it's a free publication, you go online, you sign up. Our summer issue goes to press in 2 weeks, and that will complete our 7th year, which I cannot believe it's been 7 years. In addition to the magazine, we also have Autumn Years Living, which is an expo that takes place twice a year. Due to COVID, unfortunately, we had to shut down, but I am happy to say you're all the first to hear publicly that we are resuming September 16th, Thursday. We actually have the Bristol who's sponsoring the food, so I'm very happy about that. So more information will come about that. And next month, we're actually speaking on Sweeten Your Life, how to sweeten your life, which the editor will be joining me to present all different ideas on how to sweeten your life.
So that's the last one in our Get Control of Your Life series, and that'll be June 15th at 12 p.m. So mark your calendars because I know you're going to want to sweeten your life. So my name's Laura Husking. I'm from Generations Counseling and Care Management, and we are a geriatric care management firm. We cover Bergen, Passaic, Essex, Morris, and Rockland County, New York. So we're all over the place. We also provide psychotherapy services that are covered by Medicare, which is very exciting. One of the things that we do is we help advocate for our clients when they go into the hospital at 2 or 3 in the morning. You've got a care manager on your side to meet you at the hospital at 2 or 3 in the morning. So this definitely helps when we're taking care of family members who live out of state. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the program over to Lisa Harris. She's going to be presenting Decluttering Your Life. So Lisa Harris, besides being a friend and a colleague, she's the owner of Organize with Lisa. She's always loved the harmony of neatness and order. Lisa feels a tremendous amount of reward and gratitude knowing she's helping to transform people's lives. She's a local and national member of NAPO, the National Association of Productivity and Professional Organizers. She has earned her residential special certificate. Lisa's services include residential and business spaces, pre and post moves, downsizing, clutter control training, as well as paper and photo organizing. Wow, that's a lot, Lisa. So I just want to make one little quick note. If you guys have questions, put them in the chat box. I'm going to be calling on the questions after she's done with the program. And I'm also going to put it on speaker view so you can see the wonderful, the incomparable Lisa Harris.
Wow, what an introduction, Laura. I'm going to call on you for all of my introductions going forward. I want to thank Laura and Dean for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here and share some great tips and strategies I have for each of you today. So let's get started. Okay. Okay, and my screen is frozen. All right, take two. Let's try this one. There we go. Okay, so here's a few of the things I want to cover today. Clutter explained. We'll define clutter. We're going to talk about beginning to clutter and what that entails. I have some before and after pictures for you, some great tips to go forward, and then I'm going to open it up to each of you to share any questions you may have for me. So let's talk about clutter. What is clutter exactly? So according to Merriam-Webster, or maybe Google, a couple of definitions here. Clutter is a state or condition of confusion. Another definition is to fill with things in a disorderly manner. And my personal definition of clutter is postponed decisions and excessive ownership. So I want to share some pretty eye-opening statistics to start with. How many of you can relate to this one? That 1 in 7 Americans, so probably one person on your street, cannot use at least one room in their home due to too much clutter. That is pretty eye-opening. And second one is that many studies have shown a direct link between clutter and depression, anxiety, sadness, poor eating habits, poor sleeping habits, poor decision making, frustration, and the list goes on. So why do we declutter? Well, let's talk about it. So when clients come to me, they are typically at their wit's end. They ask me one of 3 statements. I tried getting organized and it didn't work. Or I don't know how to get organized, or I don't know where to start. And my answer is always the same, regardless of your age, your circumstances, what space you're talking about. Is it your home? Is it your aging parents' home? Is it your office space? And that answer is always start small. So what does start small means? Well, first you need to identify a space in your home that's causing you the most stress, or a space that is most well traveled, or the one that you use the most, and typically that's the kitchen. And the goal here is to just get started. That's often the hardest part for so many people. So conversely, well, let me first ask you, by show of hands, when you look at this slide compared to the last one, how many of you feel just a more sense of calm and peace with this slide? Yeah, that's a lot. So when we are organized and we have order in our spaces, we feel reduced stress and anxiety. We have better sleeping and eating habits. We're happier. We're in a better mood. We have more clarity. We're physically healthier because we don't have the dirt and dust that clutter brings along with it. So the airflow is better in our spaces. They're bigger, they seem brighter. And last but certainly not least, we declutter to gain back control of our spaces. So when we're cluttered, we are not in control of our spaces, and that's not a great place to be. Our emotions clearly manifest in our spaces. So I want to share a story with you about a client of mine to illustrate another example of starting small. I want to share a story about my client, Mary. Mary is a petite, charming senior. She shared with me that she was experiencing mild depression, extreme moments of anxiety, and a sense of overwhelm in her spaces, to what she described as utter chaos. So I went to Mary's home, and as soon as she opened up the front door, I knew exactly what she was talking about. There were Amazon boxes covering her entire entryway, which was quite large. There were shoes everywhere. There were newspapers strewn in between, and you get the picture. So I told Mary by starting small, we would accomplish her goals of creating spaces based on her use, as well as accomplishing one of my top priorities, which is safety. As it stood then, there were a lot of safety and tripping hazards. So starting small involves starting in one corner of your space. So Mary and I got to work on the left side of her entryway, and we went through each item and put them in piles of items that we're either going to keep, donate, or discard. So at one point, Mary was overwhelmed. We were working in this one space, but she said, well, how about that item over there? And what about that there? We need to talk about that. And then she turned and she's talking about items behind us. So I said, 1 minute. I went out to my car. I came back in with a hula hoop. Yep, a hula hoop. I put it on the floor and told Mary that she's only to look at and focus on the items in the hula hoop. So working like this is extremely productive and efficient, and I just move the hula hoop from space to space. So your hula hoop doesn't need to be an actual hula hoop. It can be a piece of string that you make an area with, or a piece of rope. Get creative. So again, very productive way of staying focused. So how did we take Mary's space from chaos to calm? Well, I put a basket by her front door with only her currently worn shoes. I put a bowl on a table in there for her keys, because she shared that she was constantly losing her keys, so she could drop them in there on her way in through the door. And then another basket where she was going to put her newspapers, because she didn't get to them every day. So now everything that came in that door had a home, and it wasn't the floor. Oh, and of course we decided on one corner of the entryway for her Amazon boxes. And we accomplished the goal of no more safety and tripping hazards. So while Mary's space was her entryway, yours may be your kitchen, your basement, your garage, your kids' room. Um, but I'm confident in the additional tips that I'm going to share with you that you can also take these spaces from chaos to calm. So I want to share some before and afters with you. So the drawer on the left, I think we can all relate to, our good old junk drawer that everyone has. This took me and my client 15 minutes. And you might think that's really quick for how much stuff is in the drawer, but you can do that when you know how to ask yourself these questions, and then the process moves along very quickly. So you ask yourself, do I need this item? Do I use it? And would I buy it again? So if your answer is no to any of the above, I would strongly consider donating it. And then on the right, you see we organized it by category. So like with like, which you'll hear me say in each of the next slides. Here we have a kitchen cabinet that I see very often, which is a lot of pots and pans that are kind of jumbled. And clients are always frustrated with this space because they can't find what they need, when they need it. So again, by putting like with like and just nesting them, as well as using a lid divider on the top, now everything, every category is where it should be, and you will have no problems now finding exactly what you need by, again, implementing like with like strategy. Okay, the good old kitchen pantry. So the pantry on the left, as you can see, is very full. So what we did here was we thinned it out. We looked at expiration dates. Do I use this? Do I need it? How often do I use it? Would I buy it again? So between those strategies, as well as utilizing our vertical space on the back of the door, we put in an alpha organizing system here where we were able to get a lot of product out of the pantry. Now this client can open up their pantry and see everything they own. Okay, so coming up now is another type of a pantry that many clients have, which are pull-out drawers. So the drawer on the left is what every drawer looked like. And there were many categories that were mixed in. There were baking items with breakfast, with, you know, snacks, and all sorts of different categories there. So on the right, I contained everything and labeled it so that this client's children could also be a part of the process when she went food shopping and putting things away. Now everything was clearly marked and contained, and this client too can pull out a drawer and see everything that she owns. So here we have some shoes, and the left side isn't a terrible looking space at all, but if you can see where my cursor is, the door is right here. So when this client walked in, she kind of had to walk around her shoes. So again, on the right side, by utilizing our vertical space, I put in a shoe rack, and we got all those shoes off the floor up onto a rack, and now when she walks in, she has a clear path into the rest of her closet. And lastly, this is also another common shelves that I see in closets, which is just an assortment of things tossed onto a shelf. They're not organized by category. So on the right side, again, like with like, it's now contained, manageable. It's organized by short sleeve, long sleeve, sweatshirts, and I also added these shelf dividers, which, not only make it look pretty, which isn't always the priority, but this client can now keep these things contained in these definitive spaces. Okay, so now I want to share some tips with you to help you further declutter your spaces. I want to talk about one in and one out. So for women, we often have so many pair of black shoes or black pants or jeans. And, really, how many do we need? Do we need 10? Probably not. So my rule here is that when you bring one more in, that you take one out. Okay, so the idea is not to keep bringing in more and more and more things, because that is what helps the clutter process along. But when we bring one in, we take one out. And sometimes, depending on clients, when we bring one in, I ask to take 2 out, or maybe 3. Next, start small. Again, start small. Like, don't say, I'm going to organize my kitchen today, because you're going to set yourself up to be disappointed. Start with a junk drawer. Start with a shelf in your cabinet. Start with your utensil drawer. Start with your sock drawer. And when you finish that, you have completed your goal, which is fantastic. So you can stop there, or if you have the motivation, you want to keep going, great. Okay, but by starting small and seeing your success in front of you, that's going to keep you motivated to keep going. Next, don't put it down, put it away. So when you come into your home, a lot of us, we're all busy juggling a lot of balls. We come in with bags from the store, and you put it down because there's a clear place on your kitchen table, your island. But that's not where it belongs. So instead of putting it down and saying, I'll get to it later, I'll get to it tonight, I'll get to it tomorrow, the reality is that those times don't usually happen. Take the extra couple of seconds or minutes and put it away, okay? Everything has a home. It is not a clear, free, horizontal surface. Next, every 6 months, check your expiration dates in your kitchen and your medicine cabinet. So that's pretty self-explanatory. I just did a client's pantry this weekend. It had been 2, 3, 4 years since she had gone through her pantry. So if you keep up with it every 6 months, it doesn't have to, accumulate to 10 bags of expired food. Be intentional with what you bring into your house. So a lot of us get caught up in promotions, right? Buy one, get one free. There's a store by me that has, 10 for 10, right? 10 items for $10. It's marketing. Most times, unless we have a huge family or we're getting ready for an event, we don't need 10 of one item. So just be careful of what you bring into your house, okay? Again, play it out in your head when you're in the store. Do I have room for this? Do I need it? Would I use it? A lot of times we get freebies. Everybody loves freebies, but freebies typically wind up not being used, and they just, again, add to our clutter. Use your vertical space. Vertical space is the best prime real estate out there, especially in smaller, tight spaces. So many people forget that we have a lot more space, or not forget, but don't realize that we have so much space. You just have to go up instead of out. And lastly, donate. So give to other people what's not serving you anymore. You know, there's so, as we know, there's so many people out there in need, and there's so many wonderful organizations that make sure your items get to really loving, appreciative homes. So I really, really encourage you to donate. And I would just check beforehand. Now with COVID, some places have, you know, they have different requirements now with what they do and don't accept. So I always like to end my presentations with a quote, which is that good organizing is not changing your personality. It's just about adapting your space to support new, healthy habits. So I'll just end with saying that being organized is not a weekend event. It's not a one-time thing. You know, we don't say we're going to get organized this week or we're going to get organized today. Being organized is a lifestyle. It's a new mindset. And getting into new habits definitely pushes you outside of your comfort zone. But I assure you that once you're in that habit, it actually doesn't feel good to be out of that habit. You know, life happens and sometimes we have a backslide, and that's okay. But the idea is to catch it soon and not let it go, you know, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, which typically become a year, 18 months, 2 years. So nip it in the bud. And I want to thank you all for your time. This was so great to share these little nuggets with you all. I want to also let you know that I offer free consultation. So feel free to email me or call me, and I'm happy to talk with you about some of the spaces that may be a challenge for you. My contact information is on the slide. Feel free to take a screenshot. And now I want to offer my help to each of you.
So I'm so excited. Perfect. I was just going to ask you to stop sharing your screen so we can see all these lovely faces. So we have a comment that said that they really like what you said about using your vertical spaces. So
yes.
I wanted to share that with you. So do you guys have questions for her? You can also feel free to put yourself off of mute or wave to get my attention, and then I'll call on you. Does anybody have anything they want to ask her? She's here for a whole bunch more minutes. So please feel free. Take advantage of her. Do you know what? I have a question. So
Okay.
Actually, you helped me out with this, but would you say, like, would there be a good way to make sure that all of your important documents are organized, or could you like just give like a few pointers on that?
Yeah, so paperwork takes on a life of its own. It really does. Paperwork typically requires one of 3 actions. File it, toss it, or act on it. So I always recommend that you have an in and out box where you work on your desk. In your inbox, decide when you're going to go into your inbox. Okay, don't say I'll get to it, but is it going to be every Sunday where I'm going to go through my inbox, I'm going to pay my bills, I'm going to go through my kids' schoolwork, and I'm going to make sure it's clear to start my week off. And once you're done with your inbox, then it goes to your outbox, and that's typically where you're going to file it. And I would recommend that you also decide on the time that you're going to file. Am I going to file? Nobody likes to file. So we all have to kind of bite the bullet and just do it. And I can't stand filing, but when I'm done, I'm like, yes, I did it. So just do it. And I often recommend do something while you're filing. Listen to a podcast that you want to, listen to some music, have some, a show in the background to kind of, ease the burden, if you will. But the key to paperwork is keeping up with it. Great question, Laura.
So what are the couple of documents, because I know the answer to this because this is what you told me. What are some of the most easily accessible documents that you'll need that you should make sure you have in a safe space?
Well, emergency documents, that's a whole other presentation. But I often recommend you have like a go folder, which is a folder that you grab and go if you need to in an emergency. Typically in that go folder, you would have copies of your insurance cards, your credit cards, your most important policies, your kids' immunization charts. There's a whole list that I have, and I'm actually happy to send them to you. There's about 15 or so documents that you should have handy in that go folder.
Yeah, Lisa
gave
gave
a whole presentation on emergency. Yeah, this is a big important topic, but that's just a little bit to get you started.
Yeah,
also, in that goal folder, I think it's really important to have some cash, and you decide what that is just in case, there's no power and we can't get to an ATM, or if we can get to it, maybe the power's out and there's no cash to be had. So, you each have to decide how much cash you feel is the right amount to have on hand, but I always recommend having some cash.
Yeah, it was just funny because Lisa gave this presentation months and months ago at a women's group that I belong to. And as she was talking, I was like trying to find my like homeowner's insurance, trying to find my insurance cards to make sure that they were easily accessible. So I have another question for you. Diane would like to know what, again, exactly are the vertical spaces? What do you mean by that when you say vertical spaces?
Sure. So a vertical space is, so let's say we had a kitchen cabinet, right? And you just put your plates in there, your dinner plates. So after your top plate, there's still, 6, 8, 10 inches of space left, right? That space, that 6, 8, 10 inches is great space. So what do I do with those spaces? I get one of my favorite products, which is a shelf riser, and it literally is like a stand. And so on top of those plates now I have all this space that I can utilize. So now maybe I can put, my bowls that were falling over, or some, some smaller plates. So that's one area in your kitchen. Also, oftentimes I also see in a vanity, a lot of times in a vanity, we put our bottles in, and then above our bottles, we have a lot of extra space there that's not being utilized. So again, you can put a shelf riser in there, and maybe on top of that, you put you put tissues, or you put your toilet paper, or you put, bigger, bulkier items. In the before and after, I showed something that was, nailed into the door, but it doesn't have to be. You can get something from Bed Bath & Beyond, like a shoe organizer that you hang over. It just hooks over the top of the door. And for many clients, I've done this in their coat closet doors. So we utilize the vertical space there by season. So now what I'm doing is I'm changing over hats, gloves, scarves that I've put in there to sunscreen, flip-flops, sunglasses, visors, bug spray. So you can use that space, that vertical space, for your seasonal items. I have one client that had a door in her pantry, and she didn't use that. She didn't want to nail something in. So in those pockets, we put in I'm thinking what we put in. We put in like soup mixes, and we put some cans in there, and just to thin out a space. Like I said, it's always better to go up than out, especially like in apartments, which are typically don't have a lot of storage space. What else can you go vertical with? Wherever you have the ability to adjust shelving in your closets, in your cabinets, in your dining room buffets, really strategize how much space do you really need and lower that cabinet. So now you have, more vertical space for the next thing. You either put your taller things on the bottom or put your taller things on the top. But I always recommend getting adjustable shelves whenever you're buying new pieces so that you have that flexibility depending on how your needs change.
That was a great answer. Thank you for giving us so many examples. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
So
how's everybody's spring cleaning going?
Not well, not for me. What do you recommend for a proliferation of old photos? That's a good question. It's a good question.
That's a great question. So photos, again, is a huge project. I typically work with archiving specialists. They do a number of things. They either preserve photos, they digitize them, they can put them on a flash drive for you, they can put them on a hard drive for you. If you give them one of those digital frames, that just kind of scroll through pictures, they'll put those pictures on there for you. They all ask one of the same things, which is that prior to you giving them pictures, that you go through and you take out the pictures you don't want. Oftentimes we have a lot of pictures of landscapes. We have pictures, I recommend you take out pictures that don't elicit happy memories, or, if somebody, if it's a sad memory or, an otherwise negative memory, I would not include that picture in there. So they can organize them by event, by person of the family, by year, by decade. It's really up to you. I've done projects with people who don't have a lot. Most clients have thousands of pictures to be dealt with, and those I actually do refer to the archiving specialist. But that's what I do. We make columns typically on a kitchen or dining room table, and we say, Joey, Susan, Linda, or we say 1970, 80, 90. There's many ways you can organize the photos.
Oh, that's again, really good answers. So you mentioned spring cleaning. What are some of the tips that you can give us about starting that process?
Yeah, so spring cleaning is a great time, especially after this last year, where so many of our spaces were either makeshift classrooms, offices. What I've been hearing most from clients is that their kitchens have been kind of turned upside down in the last year. I think the kitchen is a great place to start. And again, these are, just going through, starting with your junk drawer, like what accumulated in the last year in your junk drawer. Spring cleaning is a great time in your garage. So now you want to take all of your winter items, your shovels, the salts, the sleds, and you want to put those, you want to create zones like I talked about before in your garage as well. So you put your winter items in one section. Maybe now you want to put them in the back of your garage, and up front now you want to bring up like my son, now we'll bring up his boogie board and his fishing equipment. We'll bring that up front. So put your seasonal items always up front. I always recommend getting as much as possible off of the floor. And again, utilizing your vertical spaces. Hang your bikes from the wall. Our bikes are hung from our ceiling in the garage. Again, get everything up and off the floor. Hooks, brackets. They have those tension hooks that you could use for your shovels, your rakes, all your gardening equipment. So the garage is a great place to start spring decluttering too. And of course, we're probably all now in the process of turning over our seasonal clothes, right? We're doing our spring clothes, we're bringing our spring and summer clothes out and putting our winter clothes away. So I wouldn't recommend that we put things away that you didn't wear. Although this might be a trickier time because we weren't doing a lot this particular winter. But again, if you look at a piece of clothing and it really, don't get super excited about it, I wouldn't recommend keeping it because you're probably just going to be transferring it over year after year after year. And you might as well give it to somebody that's going to wear it all the time and enjoy it.
That's really good advice. Again, after I met with you, I hike a lot and my hiking gear is like all over my house. So what I did was I literally created a nook, used the vertical space and did like a little shelf for like little cubbies for like my different hiking boots and my hiking gear and stuff like that. So you have very much inspired me, Lisa, this year. So does anyone...
That's wonderful.
Does anyone have any other questions? A lot of people are saying it's great advice in the chat, so they're very excited. Anybody else have any questions or anything like that? No, are you sure? All right, okay, well, I'm gonna let you guys go, but just one more note. So June 15th, Heidi Gross is going to be presenting Sweeten Your Life, and that will be the last in our Get Control of Your Life series. So if you've signed up for any previous presentations, you'll automatically get an email that shows you how to log on for the next time. And thank you guys so much for coming. We're really excited to be able to present this to you today. And again, thank you for your lovely presentation, Lisa. Lots of inspiring ideas here. So I'm hoping next time you guys can all update us on your spring cleaning and your organizing. All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day.